Alright, Pretender here, back with another Honkai Star video. But today I want to be talking about Aventurine and why you really should consider summoning him if you are skipping him in any way, shape, or form. So this video is first going to be talking about why he's really good, flexible, and all that kind of stuff. Then we'll also be talking about why he's pretty future-proof from the info we already know going around. And yep, that's all I want to say before I get to the video. Make sure to drop a like, drop a sub, hit the bell icon for more videos like this. There's over 80% of you guys still not subbed to the channel that do watch this channel. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on videos like this, along with different types of guides, pre-farms, news, all that kind of stuff. Let's get into it. So first, let's actually talk about Aventurine himself and why he's so good right now. There's a few things that you could really outline with Aventurine. One is that he's practically good on any team you put him on. He may not be the most optimal for mainly a dot team or a break team, but any other crit base and such team, follow-up team, hyper carry, those he's usually always the best at. And even on a dot team or a break team where he's not the most optimal, he still works completely fine, and his shield is so powerful that you really do not have it break too often, and you don't really need to recast with him either, thanks to the fact that he also has access to a follow-up attack, and thanks to his A6, he's able to refresh the shield by a little bit every time he does do a follow-up attack. On top of that, for any DPS that wants to crit, he has an exclusive unnerved debuff when you do use the ultimate on an enemy. That enemy you do ult will be inflicted with unnerved, which makes that enemy take 15% crit damage down. So any DPS that wants a crit will deal increased crit damage to that target. And on top of that, there's really two ways you can build them, and both are completely fine. You can build them as a pure sustain, where it's mainly focusing on a shield, just getting the pure most amount of shield you want to get, so getting them up to 5k plus defense, so you can ensure the shield never breaks. You don't really have to refresh it too much. The follow-up attack that gives you a smaller version of the shield but can still refresh it can still give you a good amount. And another way that you can build them, which I personally recommend more, is a sub-DPS / sustain. Since he has defense scaling attacks, you can build him defense for a good shield. He has a bonus trace that gives him up to 48% crit rate when you do give him up to 4k defense, which by 4k defense, your defensive shield is very strong. And on top of that, his damage can be really nice. So doing some offensive relic sets, such as running 2-piece follow-up set, 2-piece imaginary, 2-piece debuff set even. Maybe not even running something like Broken Keel on him for the support, and rather running something like Inner Assaulto or actually Durin. There are multiple ways you could actually make him dish out pretty good damage even at E0S1, E0S0. It's really up to personal preference. If you don't really care about that extra sub DPS that can actually help you wiggle down enemies or maybe kill smaller guys on the side even, then obviously you'd probably go for the full shield, and with a full shield Aventurine, he is so goddamn strong at tanking. The shield will literally never break. You barely have to recast the skill. He also gives everyone 50% effect res in that shield, access to the unnerve for more crit damage stuff. You're running the crit based DPS, so effectively making the enemy take more damage. Everything he provides is just so good. And then if you do sacrifice some of the sustaining he could do, which again really isn't a sacrifice, because even at around 4k defense he's practically shielding everything, you can build him somewhat sub DPS, which as I mentioned previously can help you wiggle down enemies that your DPS couldn't, so you can get to another way faster, or wiggle down enemies that survive on the side, or even kills enemies on the side himself, because obviously the smaller enemies are not going to have that much HP. So two ways to build them depending on how you want. Once again, pure sustain or a sub DPS / sustain. Regardless of the build, you have a debuff that can help. You pretty much have access to everything regardless of what build you do. And another thing I wanted to talk about is how free-to-play friendly this character is. Aventurine does not need his Lycon whatsoever, and he does not need a single dupe whatsoever. There are some characters in this game that will really want their Lycon. They really want E1 to be more functional or more versatile. Aventurine is not one of those characters. He does have an extremely powerful signature, which is really great, especially for his sub DPS, giving him crit damage, giving him a really big increase of defense, and also giving him another debuff that makes enemies take more damage. And his E1 is absolutely fantastic. Everyone with a shield gets 20% crit damage, and he can also refresh the shield with using his ultimate to an equal effect by his skill, which is absolutely insane. With the E1, you will literally never need to use a skill. But even though these dupes are so powerful, at E0S0 he's going to perform so well. His shield already can become super tanky if you do build him with the red stuff that he does want. His sub DPS potential is still very fine, despite the fact that it obviously will be on the lower side, but he's sustaining your team mainly and is able to deal that sub DPS is what makes it so goddamn good. So not only is he extremely easy to build, not only do you have two ways to build him depending on what you want, he is on top of that very free to play friendly. So you do not have to stress about getting his Lycon or someone else's signature Lycon, giving it to him. He has plenty of free to play options. And then if you ever get Jeopard's signature Lycon, that one's fantastic for him. That gives him more defense than his signature can potentially. He just has a lot of good options you can use. If you want a pure defense and sustain, he has options for that, free to play. And if you want the damage side, then he has options for that, free to play as well. So you combine all that, and once again, being good on any team you want to take him on, making your team not die. He is just such a good sustain and is really hard to pass out on someone that literally just keeps your team alive and does everything for you. Very, very easy to use, very, very good, and does the sustain job extremely well. On top of that, has the privilege to be a sub DPS. Lot of things going for him. And that's something which I kind of already addressed somewhat, but briefly talking about his state in the meta and on teams, he is once again mainly the best on crit based teams. On a follow-up based team, he is going to be the best, and in the upcoming potential summon meta, he is going to be rivaled as the best because it's probably going to be him or Feixiao, but they're probably going to be neck to neck for how good they are. The only teams where he is once again not the best on is Dot and Break, but even on those teams, he functions completely well and he will keep your units alive. Less so with Buhil, because Buhil, he is slightly better than he would be compared to running him with Firefly or such, just because Buhil will lock off people in the standoff, so they will be hitting him and only him, and Aventurine with the shield is pretty much going to be able to negate the damage he would take, effectively helping your Buhil survive. And on top of that, Buhil is a more crit based break character. Obviously his main damage comes from break, but because he is able to crit, he can actually be benefited from Aventurine's debuff and support as well. So, briefly talking about that, again, it's just another thing you can add on to when considering, because he is just good everywhere. And then finally, the other main point of this video. So, Starro, notoriously known for some pretty frequent power creep, unfortunately. You might be thinking, oh, why would I summon for him when he's probably just going to get power crept soon anyways? It's already been 6 months since he's been the best. It's very much seeming that sustains are getting as good as him. Just look at Feixiao and how good she is. And that's where the info going around comes in. From what it does seem, for the majority of 3.0 and above, there is seeming to be no preservation characters that are going to be coming out with the updates. Once again, this is going into info circling around and speculation territory, and once again, just info that people are posting around. So it is not 100% confirmed, but by reliable people that have been posting, it is seeming that there will be no preservation character that is going to be able to replace him. There may be a new abundance character for a healer, but there is not going to be a sustain, effectively keeping him as the best shielder and by default sustain for a long while. Since once again, it's already been over 6 months since his original banner and he's still at the same spot he was back then. Only thing that has been changed is there's been more options, like once again they released Gallagher, that same update for break teams. Now there's Feixiao, so those are like the only things, but that didn't bring him down any spot. And then you consider that the fact that he is going to be the top of the shielders and sustain slots for what is looking like majority of 3.0 and above. So 3.0, 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, 3.4, 3.5, etc, etc. And as we do know, each update lasts for 40 days, so for months and months to come, it is potentially seeming like he is going to remain his spot as the best shielder and is not seeming to be replaced anytime soon. And on the off chance that everything is wrong and he maybe does get knocked down by someone, since he's already so good and how powerful he is with the shields, no matter the fact that if he does get power creep, let's say the info once again is wrong and a new preservation comes out, and let's say 3.2, 3.3, 3.4, and they are slightly better than him, then boom, he got power creep, but you could still use them very, very well because he's already that good. Like Feixiao power creep Gallagher, doesn't mean you can't use Gallagher, he's still really good. Those kind of situations. And let's say the info is right, Aventurine doesn't get power creep all the way up to, let's say, 4.2, where they finally release another preservation character. He does what Aventurine does, but better, he or she. That's still not going to mean that Aventurine is going to be dead. He's still going to be a sustain that you're going to be able to use up that late just because of how good he is. Unless the game completely changes to where you don't want to focus on dealing damage at all, and it's all from stuff like dot or status. Shields just get penetrated completely, and it stays like that for every update to come for the rest of the game's lifespan. If that's the only case, then obviously any shielder is going to be dead on release, and so it doesn't really matter to get power crept, but most likely that's not going to be the case, so he is always going to have a use for a long time to come, and seeming for the actual meta that what he's going to remain as right now is going to be what he is going to stay as all the way for the 3.0 updates to come from what it does seem. So investing in him now, just getting E0, S0, maybe even getting more later down the line if you're that interested. But even if you do keep him E0, S0, he is going to perform. Right now, he's going to help you with literally every single content. Memory of Chaos, Pure Fiction, Apocalyptic Shadow, all amazing. Simulated Universe, easily the best sustain you can use him there. He just has a lot going for him right now. He's had really, really good longevity, and he's going to continue to have that longevity going forward. And yep, that's been the video. That's why I do very much recommend summoning for Aventurine. I know you guys know me as a major Aventurine guy. guy, simp, all that kind of stuff. This is not pulled from that. Like, I would obviously recommend Aventurine to anyone just because of how much I like him, but this is a pure usage slash meta standpoint. This is not me being biased, this is just me being how it is. He is that good. And before some cringe lord is gonna comment, oh, you have E6, obviously he's gonna be good for that long, E0, S0 is gonna get cooked. No. Everything I still said still stands at E0, S0, E0, S1, maybe even have E1, S1 especially. What I said is what I'm going to stand by, and with the info going around, which once again could end up being false, but for the most part it is probably going to be true. He's going to have good longevity, and on top of that, once he does inevitably power creep in a long time from now, he is still going to be usable. So even if you don't get the new power creep, then it doesn't really matter to you. He got power creep, but you don't have the unit, so you use the older unit anyways. But yeah, again, that's from the video. Hope you guys found the video helpful. If this convinced you, let me know. Big W's. Peace out.